Okay, well, this is the next episode of the Enhance AEC podcast, and I'm pretty excited about this episode because this has got one of my own kids as a guest, my son Charlie Richardson, and there's a few aspects of it that we key in on. Number one, he is my son, so he brings a perspective of the son of an engineer and also son of an entrepreneur, and he becomes a little bit of an entrepreneur himself, and we learn about that, how he dabbles in that a little bit. And then also he has moved into construction. So he's working in the trades as an HVAC technician, and he does HVAC work for houses and some commercial work as well. And so we learn about what an HVAC technician does. We learn about HVAC in the South, which is interesting because in the last episode we learned about a mechanical engineer. So there's a bit of a tie-in with that. And then also Charlie is a Marine, so we learned how he that ties into his work ethic. So those were a few aspects of it, but like all episodes, we're going to be inspired and learn from his why, and we're also going to have a good time, and he brings a few good laughs as well. Was there anything that you particularly think we should point out for the episode?
Just like his view on integrity, honesty, and hard work was very inspiring to listen to him and talking about being up till midnight and then get up at 6 a.m. to go run and then working a full day's work, just definitely inspiring and just the way he talked about you and in general, it was very inspiring to listen to.
Yeah, okay. So those are some of the things we're going to be keying on today in our episode. My name is Andy Richardson. I'm a structural engineer. I've been doing this 26 years, and I'm still on a journey to learn more about other professionals in the AEC industry. What do they do? What are some of the details and aspects that I'm not familiar with? And also, what drives them? What helps them realize the why of what they're doing? That's what we're here about at the Enhance AEC podcast. So I hope you listen in with us the rest of the episode. Let's jump to our intro.
Welcome to Enhance, an AEC podcast where we learn the why behind AEC professionals so that you can learn your why.
Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Dad.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. So episode number 2 of Enhance AEC podcast. Thanks for jumping on with us today.
You ran out of people that quick?
Exactly. So I guess we wanted to start with people we knew, and we're trying to get it going. So yeah, definitely appreciate you jumping on with us. But I thought there was some cool connections with you. Obviously, you're my son, and you grew up as a son of an engineer. So there's that connection, and then you're currently in the construction industry. So those are some tie-ins that I wanted to explore and just discuss with you. So so I think first of all, it's just growing up here in your I guess growing up and in Beaufort, South Carolina, which also want to discuss the Marine Corps a little bit too, but just growing up here, and then also what it was like being the son of an engineer. So talk a little bit about your background and just growing up.
Well, I mean, I'm your son, obviously. Beaufort's a good place to be from. It's a small town, not as much as it used to be, but it definitely had that small town, still does, but a small town feel. And then it's growing a lot, it's getting a little bigger, a little more expensive here, but well, I guess, like, what else do you want to know, like, specifically?
Yeah, I mean, so that's a little bit about growing up here, and I mean, you went away in the Marine Corps for 5 years, and you just came back. So I guess, did anything change or big difference?
Yeah, it's grown a lot. When I left, we didn't have a Chipotle, and now we have one.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, you can definitely tell. It's even in the last 5 years or 7 years or so, it's grown a lot, but like barely recognizable from what it used to be.
Okay. So and then wanted to discuss or get into just growing up as a son of an engineer. I mean, you saw me working either in the office, sometimes probably at night, and you saw some of the things I did. Um, I guess just from that perspective, and then even now, like what is it like to be the son of an engineer, or did that impact you at all as growing up?
I think it did. I don't know, I didn't really realize exactly what you did until I was an adult, and so, um, but even though I didn't know exactly what you did, I got an appreciation of work from you. Um, I mean, you owned your own business, and so I would see you at, you know, I would get up to use the restroom in the middle of the night, and I would see you at 2 a.m. working at the bar, and then you'd get up and go for a run at 6 a.m. the next day.
Yeah.
So it gave me an appreciation for what that's like to just work and provide for a family.
Yeah.
And so as far as the actual engineering part, I think I came to appreciate what you did a little more once I got older and kind of saw what you did. Like the problem solving and all the math and things like that, and kind of looking back, like, oh well, I guess a lot of this stuff makes sense now. Why he worked so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And you actually worked in the business a little bit. I mean,
Yeah, just filing things like that.
yeah. Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
I do. Yeah, I was. I mean, I would come in and work with you every now and then, and put my chicken scratch on some labels and put them away.
Yeah. I mean, I've always enjoyed having. I mean, I guess if I had a construction company or worked in construction, I could show my kids how to build something out of 2x4s, or something like that. But in my world, it's hard to find things to do. But we've tried to do things over the years, whether it's filing or things like that. So just bring you in and let you be a part of it. But okay, so that was a little bit of your childhood, and then you went over to the Marine Corps, which, and some people listening might be, not in from this area, but last week we actually had Stoney in our last episode, and he was a Marine, or they say that you're always a Marine, right? I guess.
Yeah, so people say that, but they're not paying me anymore.
So, but what's cool
Yeah.
is you grew up here in Beaufort, and Paris Island is here in Beaufort as well. And so you went really across the river to where Paris Island is. But talk a little bit about the Marine Corps, your experience there, growing up here in Beaufort. So talk a little bit about the Marine Corps and your experience there.
So I joined the Marine Corps basically right out of high school, and it was good. I kind of needed to get roughed up a little bit, and so I went, and it was a big learning curve doing that.
Do you have any funny stories from boot camp? That you can think of?
Yeah, I do.
That you can share. Family friendly, I guess.
Yeah. No. Yeah, no. Yeah, let me think for a second. I mean, that's pretty broad, but
yeah, I mean, anything that might be. Did you have some interesting drill sergeants, drill instructors?
Yeah, one guy in particular sticks out. His name was Sergeant Stout.
Okay.
And so he was this. I mean, they're all bald basically, but he was this bald guy, and I remember he would yell, and his lips would turn purple when he yelled. So he kind of, sometimes they kind of take a liking to you a little bit, and when they yell at you a lot, they either really like you or they really hate you. And so he yelled at me a lot, but I remember he was he was a pretty funny guy. Some of the sayings and things that they would have, man, I'm trying to think of. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of some funny stories, but I'm not coming up with anything.
Kind of blanking out. That's okay. I mean, we can come back to it. So, I know there was. So the thing I remember is the story I think you've told a few times too. So at the last I'm talking to you, but I'm also talking
Yeah.
to the audience. But so the last night, right before the graduation ceremony, the next day, so they have
Mhm.
this dinner, and what happens is if you want, you can come to this dinner and meet the drill instructors.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was just interesting because at that point, the drill instructors have really like loosened up a little bit, let's just say. And I mean, they really did loosen up, and um, they had some interesting language even at that point. So I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but let's just say they had some interesting language, and they were pretty loose at that stage. So
Yeah.
but it was, you know, I definitely respect what they do. But because we live here, I actually invited one of their drill instructors to church the next day, and he came back in there and was like, Richardson,
Yeah.
your dad invited me to church.
Yeah. I
So
don't think he ended up coming though.
no, I don't think so. But
But yeah.
that was a little memory I had, and a few others, I guess, that you told over the years. But so if you think of anything, obviously you can
Uh-huh.
share. But let's jump into that. And you, because I think it does tie in. You know, the Marine Corps affects your work currently. Now you're in construction. You're in um, the HVAC industry, and so I want to continue on the Marine Corps path a little bit, right?
I can with a funny story if you want to hear it.
Okay, yeah, funny story, yeah.
So here's a pretty funny story that so it's all about, or it's not all about, but the whole time you're there, they're trying to tell you, you know, have good bearing, you know, keep, you know, like basically you're trying to control your emotions and control your facial expressions and all these other things, and so and control your body language. And so this one guy, his name was in the military, everybody uses last names,
Right.
everybody. And so this guy's last name was Schneppenheim, and so everybody called him Alec. Even the drill instructors called him Alec.
Okay.
And he was they would the drill instructors would mess with each other sometimes. So he would one of them would stand behind another drill instructor, and he would do this with his hand, like real quick. Like for people listening, it's like a imagine you're holding a puppet, like a hand puppet, and
Yeah.
just mouthing it real fast. And so when he would see that, he would open his eyes and mouth and close them really fast, like. And the drill instructor that was trying to talk, he would say, he would be so thrown off, like, "What are you doing? Stop that!" And then he's like, "Sorry." And then the other drill instructor would start doing it again, and they're not the one drill instructor had no idea the other was doing it. He figured it out one day, and it was pretty funny. But every time I would see him doing that, I would crack up laughing, you know, and inevitably I would get in trouble. But but it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's the funniest. It's the funniest time that you can't laugh.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so funny.
But then you just laugh about it later, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
And it is interesting too, like the drill instructors, there's a kind of a ribbing happening even
Mhm.
within, there's like a thing happening with them too, because they're going through it too, right? The boot camp.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's like a hierarchy to it. You know, like the senior guys pick on the younger guys, and the younger guys pick on the even younger guys.
Yeah.
And so um, they're all trying to prove themselves and move up in the rank there. But you kind of gotta roll with the punches to
Yeah.
do that. So
But they're having to go through that. I mean, it's a what, 13 weeks?
yeah, depending on when you go through.
Okay.
I think now, I'm not sure if it's longer or shorter now, but
Yeah.
it's about 13 weeks.
But it's grueling for the instructors too. But
Yeah, it is. Yeah, they're there 24 hours a day, basically 7 days a week. I mean,
Yeah.
they sleep there. What little they do sleep, but
so I mean, definitely all the respect goes to you for making it through boot camp, putting 5 years in, and you know, thank you for your service.
well,
So,
it was my pleasure.
and to those boot camp, or you know, those drill instructors, and really everybody that serves. So it definitely, you know, I didn't serve in the military. We've talked about that before, and I respect you for that. I respect people more for that now. I understand a little bit more. I mean, I definitely don't understand it because I didn't serve, but I understand a little glimpse into military life. So thanks to you. So it's really been a pleasure to watch you go through that. So going into your actual duty, I guess, your 5-year tour, um, a little bit about that in terms of, I think the lens is, how that affected you currently with your career and moving into construction. But you worked. Tell me about your job in the Marine Corps and what you did.
Well, my answer for that depends on who's asking. So if somebody who knows a little bit about Marine Corps aviation, I'll give them the real answer, and the real answer is I was flight equipment.
Okay.
And then if they speak the language, they'll know what that is, and we'll have a good laugh about it. But if they don't know anything about marine aviation, I just tell them I was a mechanic. And they're like, oh, okay, that's cool, and then the conversation moves on.
Right.
But I worked on. I was a helicopter maintainer, and I worked on Hueys and I worked on Cobras. They're basically the same aircraft, the same airframe, but with a few different modifications. One holds a bunch of people and one doesn't. One only holds 2 people. And so I worked on seats. I worked on fire extinguishers for the engine and for the handheld fire extinguishers, all the safety equipment. I worked on some explosives, and I worked on any kind, like the real expensive helmets and communication devices, those kind of things. Some night vision, a lot of odds and ends. We were kind of a catch-all shop for like the smaller things. And so, and actually, it's funny, I do air conditioning now because that was one of the things that I worked on when I was in the Marine Corps. It was a lot different, but it was an air conditioning system in a helicopter. The fan's not big enough. So that was basically, that was what I did. And it was a lot of tedious work, but yeah, that's the basic of what I did.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm kind of going down a trail here, but just a little bit more about the Marine Corps, because you actually went overseas too, on a deployment. I mean,
if you want to call it that. It was a deployment, but it wasn't like a combat deployment.
Yeah.
It was we were out. It's basically like a patrol. Like they got all these people on a boat, and you got aircraft, and you got a bunch of infantry on there, and you're kind of patrolling the sea. And we made 8 ports, which is like unheard of. It was like I won the lottery for deployments. Yeah.
Right.
The guys that went, I think it was 2 boats before us. They went 7 months, no ports. I think they made 1, but they were only allowed to get on the dock, and so it was. We were very lucky.
Yeah.
With what we got to do.
Okay, and I mean, you got to see the world in a lot of ways, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely cured my hunger for traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really cool because you got to see. I mean, I've never been to Europe. I've never been to that part of the world. So, you've seen parts of the world I haven't seen. So that's really cool. And you also got a pretty cool coffee cup collection, right?
Yeah, I got at least 1 coffee cup in every country we visited, and so I kind of had to figure out something I was going to bring home from every country, and that seemed like the best one, because you and me, we talk about our coffee cup rating system sometimes. And how hard it is to find a good coffee cup. But so every country that I go to, I get a coffee cup, and every new state I go to, I also get a new coffee cup. But I think I've got 18 coffee cups now between the countries and states I've been to.
Yeah, and some of them are silly. Some of them are like
some of them are hilarious, but some of them are like really good. My worst one I've got. My funniest one is it's a donut mug, and it's got a hole in the middle. It's you can't even clean it.
Yeah, and you can't. It doesn't even hold much coffee, I think, right?
No, it doesn't, and you can't really drink. It's so inconvenient, but I think it's one of my favorite mugs.
It's just so crazy.
Yeah.
What about this one? How would you rate this guy?
All right, this is I'll probably put this is a classic. It's a classic shape.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a good thickness on the lip.
Yeah.
I could put 3 full fingers in, which is, I don't like that in between land between 3 fingers and 4 fingers. I either need 3 fingers exactly or 4 fingers, like
Yeah.
a nice full grip. But this is probably a A-, B+ mug. This is pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of it. I mean, it's
Mhm.
simple. It's got a nice color, a nice logo.
It does.
But I'm kind of a 3-finger guy lately. I mean, because it gives you that balance you need. So
Yeah.
but-
Yeah, I've been enjoying is those when places have like the 1-finger mug because you can just drink a little bit of coffee.
okay.
I kind of like that.
So yeah. So that's a little bit about your Marine Corps experience, and then transitioning into your experience. So you got out of the Marine Corps and you decided to do one tour. So that was a big decision, and then move into your current field. So I guess the first question is, why not stay? Why did you decide to get out? And I'll just say too, I mean, if you feel like we're getting too personal or anything, we can definitely change course. But why did you feel like you wanted to go ahead and get out?
I really enjoyed it. It was the most fun I've ever had in my life. It was also the hardest time of my life so far. I mean, I haven't lived that long, but it was very hard, but I made some really good friends, and it was a tough decision to get out. But I think the biggest thing is I kind of missed my family, and so I wanted to come home. But I and all my other friends, they were getting out and they were going other places, and so or they were re-enlisting and going somewhere else. So I could basically, the decision I had was I could either come home and see my family again, or I could stay in and figure it out again somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really want to do that. Oh, it wouldn't have been the end of the world, but I wanted to see my family again, and I wanted a family of my own. I was gone a lot, and it's not really, a lot of people do it, and kudos to them, but I just didn't want to put a woman through that.
Right. Okay.
So,
which you have some immediate plans to build a family, right?
yeah, I'm engaged to a wonderful lady.
Okay, awesome. Well, congratulations.
Well, thanks.
I mean, I already knew that.
Yeah, but they didn't.
So yeah, I mean, coming up in a couple months. So congratulations on that, and it's very exciting. So yeah, I mean, you got out about a year ago, right?
Yeah. I just hit 1 year, and since I put the uniform on in August.
Yeah.
And so it's been fast. It's been a fast year of my life, but it's been good. It was pretty, like, kind of a hard adjustment back to civilian life.
Yeah.
But it's been good. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. Now you have an interesting thing that happened right after, because you went into your own business. So
yeah,
that was interesting. So tell me about that.
So I'd always wanted to own my own business, and that was kind of I had all these dreams when I got out of the Marine Corps. I was like, I could go be a rodeo cowboy, or not a rodeo cowboy, but I could go work on a ranch. That thought popped into my mind. I was like, that'd be really cool. And I could go work on an oil rig.
Yeah.
I could go, all these different things. I was like, I could go work overseas, which I know that doesn't, a lot of these don't fit into my reasoning for getting out, and so that was kind of what I settled on, was come back home. And then I had 2 months of terminal, and so I was kind of playing with monopoly money a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I could have a business and it fail and I would still be fine. And so I had basically 2 months to kind of figure my life out. And so I started a little painting business. I used to work for a construction company, and I knew how to paint pretty well.
Yeah.
And so I started my painting company, and you were one of my first clients.
Yeah.
Came in and took your popcorn ceiling out of your house, and I did that. I did actually that same job for one other person, and it is a mess doing that.
Right.
But it was I wasn't in love with painting, but I just wanted to try something, just try the business owner thing, and it I could I it was fun. It was a fun little adventure, you know. Hired I hired a high schooler to come, a high schooler and my brother, and so they would help me, 2 or 3 days a week, and we actually did some, I mean, real professional work. We painted some people's houses, and it was a fun little adventure.
Yeah. Okay.
I found out some things about myself too. I'm a terrible accountant.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
you get that from me probably.
Yeah, I've got the receipt box in my truck. It's a shoebox. You just jam them in there.
Yeah. So you're a lot better at your job than accounting and detail aspects. Okay. And what did you learn from the painting business?
So I learned a little bit about customer relations. Um, don't be transparent with your customers, but don't be that transparent.
Okay.
Like, I'm a somewhat family oriented guy. I mean, you've got a lot of kids, and I'm one of them.
Yeah.
So they would come and help me with the job sometimes, and it would get me in a little bit of trouble because the homeowners didn't know that I had 9-year-olds working for me. And so they would come into this one guy. He came into the house, and he didn't say anything at that point in time, but I could tell he was pretty upset.
Yeah.
Because we had, I mean, we like his house looks like it's a wreck. Well, it was an apartment, right? And so he's a landlord, and the house looks like it's a wreck, because it is. I mean, there's construction materials everywhere, and paint all over the walls. And so he comes in, and there's these kids cutting in the baseboards all around the house. He's just kind of like, what is going on? And so when he came back, he came back later, and it was just me there, and he was micro analyzing the paint job, kind of looking for mistakes. I was like, I kind of did this to myself.
Yeah.
But so it ended up working out. He paid me and never talked to me again. So it's all right. Yeah, I could tell he was a little upset.
Right.
But learned some good things about customer relations, and basically your customers just want to be treated like human beings, and so if you're just honest with them, you're like, hey man, look, I messed up on we messed up here, and we'll fix it. But
right,
they respect that more than they do professionalism and professional jargon.
Right.
So,
and I mean, as far as, there's so much benefit to what you did, even though it was a short foray into entrepreneurship. But I mean, you learned, I think, so much about, getting work. Every business has to basically get work, do work, and get paid. So I think it's a great experience for anybody to have a business, even if it's for 3 months.
Yeah.
So we turned the page, and you said, turns out I don't love painting as much as maybe I thought.
Yeah.
And
I knew I didn't like painting, but I like the idea of the entrepreneurship, and it's just something I can do.
Right. I mean, you could pick up a paintbrush and start working.
Yeah.
You can get the work. Well, so I want to go into the next phase, which is your current HVAC work. How did you get in? How did you say, this is what I want to do? Because I mean, you had Blue Ocean. You could have done almost anything. So what got you into that? So,
I worked in construction before I went into the Marine Corps, and I like construction, and I like mechanical work. I like turning nuts and bolts, and I like fixing things. I like problem solving, and I thought HVAC would be a good field to get into because of those things. It hasn't turned out to be exactly what I thought it was. It's a little bit less mechanicking and a lot more electricaling than I thought it was. But
are those technical terms, by the way?
They are. Yeah, they taught us those at TCL.
Okay.
Yeah. That's Technical College of the Lowcountry.
Yeah,
but
that's a good ad right there.
Yeah. They're not paying me. Yeah, but yeah, it's not quite what I thought it would be, but it's paying the bills for now. So
Yeah. So, so what do you do exactly? I mean, as far as
tell people to go buy an air filter.
that's your number one job.
Basically, you guys go. Your air filter's dirty. Go change it.
Hey,
yeah, it things needs. I never realized this. That thing needs to be changed every 3 months.
okay.
Yeah, they get real dirty real quick. But basically, I solve expensive problems,
Mm-hmm.
and so sometimes sometimes it'll be like it'll just be a circuit board, or it'll just be a blown fuse, or just a bad connection somewhere, and something that's like basically free to fix. You just got to know what you're looking for. And then sometimes sometimes the whole unit's shot and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
So, but you just basically my whole job is to find problems, like figure out, diagnose the problem correctly. Is my job, and I do that about 90% of the time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it sounds like you're pretty talented at that skill of just problem solving. And I mean, where do you think that came from? I mean, how did you get that ability?
I don't know. I think I've always been kind of mechanically inclined.
Mm-hmm.
I used to. I've always liked to tinker with things. So when I was a kid, mom would go thrift shopping, and there's this guy. His name was Mr. Bryan. He worked at this thrift store we used to go to a lot. And Mr. Bryan, people give things to these thrift stores that they don't want, and so a lot of times it was like electronics or small mechanical things, like a weed eater, or like a toaster oven, just like little appliances and things like that. He would just give them to us, and he knew, because he knew I like to mess with stuff, and I wouldn't really fix anything, but I would take them apart. And I guess I guess that kind of, I learned a lot because I was a little kid, and so that was like a big part of my development, was just messing with these electronics and whatnot all day long. And so I don't know that I directly learned anything from that, but I learned a lot about tools and about how things work and how objects interact with each other. And I think it's just like a God-given ability. I'm kind of mechanically minded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this too. Like there might have been a thought that you might go down the engineering path, but you felt like this was a better fit for you.
Yeah, I thought of, because I had that GI Bill available. I still do, but I could have gone the engineering route, but I think I figured out after a little while. I came and like did a 1-day internship with you. I kind of just shadowed you for a little while, and I just found that I liked the idea of what you did, but I like being I like the hands-on stuff. So I kind of realized that I didn't want to be an engineer, but I wanted to be I wanted to work on the stuff.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and that's really good. I mean, I think for anybody that maybe you have kids, or I don't know, you're in that career age and you're trying to figure out what you want to do, there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, you do what, like you said, you had a God-given ability to put that into an office environment where you're not enjoying it. That's not what you should do. And I think you're going to thrive more in this than a different environment. So there's a guy that I follow on LinkedIn, Andrew Brown. He talks a lot about the trades, and I mean, I just think there's a big push for that right now. And like when I was growing up, it was a big push for white collar work and engineering and things like that. I am blessed in what I do, but at the same time, I can see the value of the trades. I think that's we have a lack of people in that field right now, and so the fact that you're in that, I think, is a good fit, because there's good money in it too right now. So those are some of the things that I'm seeing. Any thought about that as far as like advice to others, or advice to maybe parents of career age
Yeah.
people?
Um, it there's not enough workers to go
Yeah.
around, and so, and there's definitely not enough good workers to go around, and so I think the biggest struggle for any company right now is finding, not just finding a warm body that wants to work, but finding somebody who kind of knows what they're doing and has got a good head on their shoulders. And so if you're like that, then you're gonna, I mean, blow past everybody
Right.
in whatever trade you go into. I mean, if you show up on time and have a little bit of sense about you, you'll be ahead of 90% of the field.
Yeah. I mean, those are kind of low bar things, but you don't see it.
No, you don't.
So so yeah, just show up on time.
Yeah,
Just brush your hair and
yeah. You don't really need to do that. Just show up on time and be ready to work. You know, I mean, it's like the simple stuff, you know, that people don't know. Like the biggest, I probably say in AC work, the biggest, most common thing I see is plumbing issues. Believe it or not,
okay.
because there's when you're collecting warm air, all that water has to go somewhere. All that warm, humid air, that water has to go somewhere. It goes outside. Well, and it goes outside through a pipe. And so a lot of HVAC guys don't know how to do plumbing right, and they don't realize that water goes downhill.
Right.
And and if there's stuff in the pipe, you got to get it out. And so that's like probably 50% of when somebody calls an air conditioning man, that's about what it is half the time.
Yeah.
There's a problem with that line.
That's surprising. Yeah, that's the main.
Yeah,
The main
I was
thing.
shocked to find that out.
So
Yeah.
okay. Well, what? So talking more about your job. I mean, is there anything that is what's your biggest challenge in HVAC work?
Biggest challenge, I would say, what's one of two things. I would say like the most physically challenging thing is going into crawl spaces because
Okay.
they're disgusting. 99% of crawl spaces are filthy. You know, they got spider webs, and some of them got sewage issues, and I don't go under those.
Yeah.
If I see poop, I leave. That's my. But
That's your rule of thumb.
yeah, that is. I'm not going under a house if there's poop. But they're usually just, so that's like probably, and you're crawling on your belly the whole time.
Yeah.
And so, if that's probably the most physically challenging thing, and then you got to make 100 trips in and out because you keep forgetting things and you're trying to fix something. The most mentally challenging thing is dealing with customers, and that could be like dealing with an unhappy customer where, I mean, things happen and you don't get you might not diagnose something right, and then the customer's upset. And the worst is when you're in the wrong and the customer's upset. And so they're rightfully upset. So you can't, I mean, what are you going to do?
Right.
You yell at them. So kind of humbling yourself a little bit. I guess that's pretty difficult in general. But yeah, you going out and wanting to do some work, and you're going and just doing customer service all day. I think that's probably one of the tougher parts of this job.
Right.
Is the customer service.
Okay.
Yeah. That was one thing I didn't really expect was I thought I was going to be doing mostly mechanic work, but it's mostly customer service. That's probably one of the most surprising things about this field.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So dealing with different people. Throughout the day, and I would imagine your experience with Richardson Painting LLC
Yeah.
probably help with that a little bit. Would you say?
Yeah, it helped a little bit. I wasn't doing it that long, but I learned how to talk to people a little bit.
Yeah.
Doing that. I don't know if that was as much Richardson Painting as it was growing up.
Yeah.
Just knowing how to talk to adults. It's kind of, I was homeschooled. as you
Okay.
know. So
Right.
yeah, that's one of the perks is you kind of learn how to talk to adults.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, because you don't really have that. You're talking to people of all different age groups, so there's not this sense of adults are unapproachable,
Mm-hmm.
because you're with adults a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you're with adults as a public school person too, but there's just a sense that there's not a separation feel. It's a
Yeah.
different kind of thing. Okay, well, I want to get into one of the big aspects of the show is the why, right? Like, so it's called Enhance Podcast, and the idea is that we enhance the world around us. I joke about how it sounds a little, I don't know, hokey or maybe like a Miss America pageant, but I do like to get into that in terms of, why are you doing what you're doing in the HVAC industry, and what are you doing? So why are you doing what you're doing in the HVAC industry? Like what drives you, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, what drives me is I got to put food on the table. I mean,
Sure.
that's the why. Um, Beyond that, what drives me to do a good job is I feel like what upsets me a lot is a lot of these companies are not honest, and like there's no integrity
Hmm.
with a lot of people these days. And which because it's hard. Having integrity is hard. But when you treat somebody right and they know it, I mean they respect you for it.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of a why for me. Why I like how am I enhancing how am I enhancing the air conditioning world is just treating people right, like treating them fairly.
Right.
Whether that be I'm not going to lie to them and about what's going on with their air conditioner, and I mean sometimes I cost my boss some money doing that. I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna charge this lady twice for this thing. I'm gonna. I mean, I messed up, but we gotta make it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
And I mean, not throwing anybody under the bus, but I mean, can you help me understand what you mean by that? Like,
So
what you mean by integrity in this field?
so I went to a guy's house, and he had his system was leaking refrigerant, and refrigerant is really expensive. It's about $90 to $100 something dollars a pound, depending on the day. But his system was low on gas or refrigerant, and so I think it was 4 pounds in. Okay, that's almost $400 worth of refrigerant, and so I left and I put the caps on. Well, these caps, it's a Schrader valve, which is like a bicycle valve, and so if you put the cap on too tight, it depresses the actual Schrader valve part and lets refrigerant out very slowly, but it still does. So we get a call from him a couple days later, and he says my air's not working. So I go back over there and I look at it, and I'm like, well, he's 4 pounds, or he's several pounds low on gas, and so I was like, I know you got a leak in your coil, but that's not where this went, and so I called my boss, and I was like, hey, I messed up. This guy paid for this gas, and I put the cap on. I kept put the cap on too tight, and it all leaked out, and so he was a little upset, but I mean we had to fix it, and the guy I told the customer that, and he appreciated that, and it was a little embarrassing. It was really embarrassing because I mean it doesn't cost us as much as it costs the customer for refrigerant, nearly as much. Like we have a big markup on it, but it was pretty embarrassing. I was like, hey, I messed up. I put the thing I do every day, I did it wrong, and all that stuff you bought from us is gone. And so,
Yeah.
But I told him that I was just honest, and that his response to that, well, he didn't respond immediately. He's like, okay. I was like, but we're gonna fix it. And so I went outside and put the right amount of gas in, and it's one of those situations you just kind of grit your teeth a little bit and hope your boss don't get too mad at you.
Right.
And so I I went back inside and I was like, all right, we got that coil on the way, the permanent fix for his system. And I was like, hopefully it'll hold until then. And he just told me, he was like, hey, I really appreciate you owning up to that mistake. You could have just said that it leaked out of a hole in there, and that's, but you owned up to it. And he's like, it's hard to find people like that these days.
Yeah.
And so that his response, his appreciation of that will probably stick with me for a long time. But that's like an example.
Yeah. And sometimes those are the ones that really, you, like you said, you can kind of use that as motivation, because you're going to have other clients, or we call them clients, I guess. Y'all call them customers.
Yeah, it's the same
but,
thing.
but you have customers.
Patience.
Yeah. So you have customers, and there'll be some that aren't quite as easy to get along with. So you almost have to have that motivation to push through, because we have to do the right thing, even if the customer isn't nice.
Yeah, no, you do. You definitely do. But if they start yelling at me, I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a grown man. You can't yell at me.
Yeah.
They
don't pay that. They don't pay enough for that.
Yeah, they don't pay me near enough for that.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Well, really, we're kind of at a wrap-up point here, and with the HVAC and really the podcast episode. I mean, I just kind of wanted to bring it in for a landing here, but what was there anything else you wanted to maybe share with me, or share with the podcast? Like, what maybe thoughts about the HVAC, the Marine Corps? I mean, we talked about a lot of things, and I felt like it was interesting to find out more about you. I mean, even obviously see you all the time, but in this setting, just a different perspective. But was there anything else you wanted to share with me or the podcast today?
I don't have anything on top of my head.
Yeah,
but yeah, I do say, I will say, like kind of what I was talking about earlier. No matter what you do, this is like advice to anybody who's like a high schooler or a young adult who's thinking about getting into trades, and or any whatever field you're going to work in, is if you just work hard at it, you're going to do well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was kind of something. I mean, like I was saying earlier, I really appreciate learning that from you. Because I mean, I'm sure it was tough, like growing your family and trying to grow your business, and you got deadlines you got to push out, and so like that waking up in the middle of the night and seeing you working at the bar in the kitchen, and 5 hours after everybody else in the house has gone to bed, but then you get up and go to work the next day.
Yeah.
And then you go for a run before you go to work.
Yeah.
And so that was that's something I hope I can teach my kids one day.
Maybe not stay up till 2.
Yeah, maybe not stay up till 2, but that level of hard work.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it's something, that is life of an engineer, I guess, right? So,
yeah.
The double-edged sword is we can work late because we have our computer and our stuff that we can bring home, and so it's a double-edged sword because we can do that, but then we do it and therefore work late. So definitely work-life balance. We hear about that a lot these days, but it's definitely something that I've I guess balanced in my life as well. But so what is the next thing for Charlie in your career and in your life, I guess, generally speaking, but mostly your career, because this is an AEC podcast, but yeah. Career based.
I don't know exactly what's next in my career. I mean, I got a lot of options open.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if I'll stay in HVAC forever. But it's my job for now. It's paying the bills, and so I don't really know that it's my passion, but I do enjoy fixing things. And so when I get to fix, my career is something in the mechanical world, but I don't necessarily know that it's working on air conditioners,
right?
But it's good for now, and I mean, I'm gonna have to pay for my wife's health insurance and things here in the next few months. So, I mean, it's good for now.
Maybe don't change up yet because you're getting married and
Yeah.
a lot of things going on with that front.
Yeah. I'm gonna hold on for a while. But
Okay,
keep
awesome.
learning.
Well, anything else you want to say today?
No, I think that's all the words I've got for the day.
All right, awesome. Well, I really appreciate you being on today, and just enjoyed learning about you and all the different aspects from growing up in Beaufort, being in the Marine Corps, the construction industry, and the HVAC, and then also Richardson painting. So
Yeah.
we got like a nice line there, and I think there's a lot of lessons learned for everybody that can apply. So and we met a lot of the goals. So with that, I think that brings us to the end of the show. And thanks
Thanks for having me on.
take care. You too.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to today's episode of Enhance. And please leave a like, a subscribe, or a follow, and we'll see you next time.